Babe Ruth is the most overrated player in Major League Baseball history, and I am going to defend that opinion today. Scotty Scheffler and Harrison Butker are officially the villains of the week, but are they as bad as we think they are? And the NIL has finally proven how broken it is, and Jaden Rashada is at the center of it all. That and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who came to America during the Irish potato famine, my dad, Tim.
Our family did.
They did.
They did, actually.
I was there. I saw their name. That was actually really cool. I got to go with a cousin of mine to New York, Blair. Hello. And that's where we connect.
Right.
That's our shared grandfather. He's Patrick Carney, and we got to see his name written on the walls of Ellis Island.
Very cool.
That was really cool. That was a fun moment to get to share with family.
Yeah. We've got a long history on my mother's side, your grandmother's side.
Yeah.
Story is that we came over like on the boat after the Mayflower.
Yeah. Had to change last name because the Spanish hated the Irish, and the Spanish were the ones going to America, so he actually changed his last name. I'm surprised our family has kept all that documentation. We don't need you, Ancestry.com. We got a grandma that handles all of this.
Had an aunt with way too much time on her hands. And yeah, apparently, and it's from grandma's side that I am in line for the throne.
No, you're not.
I
You
am
keep
too.
saying that.
Yeah.
You are not in line for the throne.
If a lot of people go away.
Okay, Braveheart has to be 100% accurate for you to be in line for the throne.
Pretty much. I think I'm down on the 7,500.
But you're not. Again, this is
there.
based on the... Everything in Braveheart,
That's all
the
I've
movie,
got.
has to
It's
be perfectly accurate for that to be
Leave me
true.
alone.
It's not true.
It is true.
It is not true.
We are there.
It is not true. Can we talk about sports?
Yes, we can.
I...
Wait a minute. Before we talk about sports,
Uh-huh.
you always give me a hard time about being old, right?
Yeah, because you are.
Okay.
I know where you're going with this, and I don't want to talk about
I'm so
this.
old. What happens when the thermostat no longer works?
Shut up.
What do you do?
Shut up.
Oh, I've got to rewire it. Did you check the batteries? It doesn't have batteries. Pop it off. 3 little AAAs.
There are 2 AAAs.
There's 3.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I had wired that thing
With it and put
to
batteries
electricity.
and batteries in there, obviously.
It's been 3 years. I forgot there were batteries in it, okay? Thank you very much. I said thank you.
Your wife thought it was hysterical.
Yeah, I haven't heard the end of it now. Anytime the blender wasn't working because the kids wanted milkshakes, and she said, "Did you check the batteries?" This is not ending. I screw up once, folks. Simply forgetting there were batteries in it. It didn't think about this though. I literally remember wiring the thing, having to turn off power to get this thing hooked up. Why would I think there are batteries in it?
Because everything has batteries in it.
Well, I forgot. And now my thermostat works again.
2 simple words to get you out of any trouble you'll ever be in.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I used that line a lot. Thanks for bringing that up.
Had to bring it up
You suck.
at times, but that was good.
We had a comment.
I wanted to jump in as you were doing your little prelude to the show bit.
We had a comment.
Yeah.
I made a comment last week that Babe Ruth was overrated.
Which he is not.
And I stand by it completely. So from BIU 2330 with the cool Oreos logo
He's
on
not-
it. Thank you
he's
for your
not my-
comment.
He's
Said
not my friend anymore.
that diluting Ruth and calling him overrated is laughable. I want to make it clear. I am not diluting Ruth at all. I'm not. He is one of the greatest players of all time.
The greatest.
One of the greatest players of all time.
The greatest.
What I am saying is that as one of the, if not the greatest player of all time, he is overrated. And I saw your Babe Ruth statue. He's staring at me right now, and I will look into his eyes. As you can see, I'll go back to this camera angle. He had to put this guy out. He's staring right at me, and I will tell you to your face, people overrate you, and it's not fair to you. I love Babe Ruth. I love his story. I love the last letter he wrote before his death. I love everything about him, what he's overcome. I love Babe Ruth, and I think it's a travesty that people overrate his accomplishments when it doesn't need to happen. He is overrated. Again, and I said this in the comment. My grandfather didn't see Babe Ruth play. Your grandfather barely saw Babe Ruth play. That's not true because your grandfather, your mom and dad were older, so our generation stretches.
Yeah,
a little
my
bit farther,
grandfather, your great grandfather, was born in 1898 or 1888.
But that's rare. If we talk about people my age, most people's great grandparents didn't see Babe Ruth play.
Yeah, your great great grandfather fought in the Civil War.
Right.
We're unusual in that way.
Very unusual. Everybody was older when they had kids. That's just how it works. That's why he's insanely old, as he's proving right now. Not saying much for me, but that's a different story.
Go on.
What I am saying is people don't understand what the history of baseball either. And that's why they argue with me. Well, how can he hit so many home runs and blah, blah, blah? Okay, I'm going to go through the list here. And I laid this out in the comment below. Ruth played in a time where Major League Baseball was in a transition period. He started in 1918, which was the dead ball era.
He actually started before then.
I guess 1917 he was technically
16, I think. And, oh, by the way, his ERA was 2.28 as a pitcher. His winning percentage was 671, and he held the record for 40 years for the most scoreless
dead ball era.
Most scoreless innings in history for 40 years.
To people what the dead ball era is here. The dead ball era, for those of you that don't know, because I say that and you say that, and I don't think most people know what I'm talking about.
It goes from
Hold on.
It goes from 1910 to 1919. It
goes to the beginning of time as the dead ball era.
No,
because they use the same ball throughout. But yes, okay, fine. The official time, but you're not telling me that in 1901 they weren't using the same ball.
Difference was there were other changes during the dead ball era. The home plate used to be a square. In dead ball era, it switched to the pentagon plate that we're familiar with now, so it made a wider strike zone.
Fair.
Foul balls also counted as strikes beginning in the dead ball era.
They still do now. You can't be struck out with a
correct. Well, you couldn't be struck out then with a foul ball, but it did count as a strike.
Foul balls count as a strike now.
It didn't up until 1910.
Oh, I get it. I get what you're saying.
There was a change that came into play in the dead ball era. I get what you're saying.
Sorry. So I'm going to explain what the dead ball era is. So the dead ball era is the same ball was used throughout the entire game. So right now in baseball, you see the catcher go back to the umpire throwing a ball to the pitcher. Anytime a ball is blemished or any 5 to 7 pitches, the ball is switched out.
Now
the ball is always brand new. Hold on. In the dead ball era, they used the same exact ball throughout the whole game. It didn't matter if it went 9 innings. It didn't matter if it went 20 innings. It was the same exact ball throughout the entire game.
For the most part.
Unless it was lost.
Yeah.
Then they'd switch out the ball. So if you look at that time period, it was a huge advantage to the pitcher, which is why I say dead ball era stats don't count.
Okay.
Because the game was completely different.
Hold on. Yes, the ball became mushy. And by the way, they didn't start trading out balls like they do now until probably the late 80s, early 90s, when back in the 70s, pitcher would use the same ball for a lot longer. But in any case,
as soon as it was hit, it was changed out.
Not back in the 70s.
Yes, it was.
Anyways, going back, yes, the balls got mushier. But the batter still had to hit the ball. It was a small ball era.
It did.
More than dead ball.
And I say more so pitching stats don't count in today's game because it was a huge advantage to the pitcher. You couldn't hit the ball as far.
You could still hit it in the hole and get singles.
You could.
It was small ball.
You could
bunt and get on.
You could, but it was a different game, a completely different game.
Different style.
Let me finish my point. Quit cutting me off. This is why I hate having this conversation with him. This is our biggest argument we ever have. So you made me lose my train of thought. Hold on, I'm back. Okay. So the ball was used throughout the entire game, which means pitchers learned how to pitch with the same ball. And so if you would pitch for fly balls because the ball wasn't traveling as farther because the ball was beaten up. So a ball would either be grounded out because it wouldn't hit as hard on the ball. It was softer roll. It was just harder to hit that ball at that point. And so pitchers learned also, because the ball would get oblong, it would get different shapes. The pitchers could move that ball very differently and had to learn how to pitch that ball very differently.
Oh, so they still had to pitch.
They had to pitch.
Okay.
What I'm saying is okay, now pitchers overnight, because 1919 Black Sox happened and Judge Landis came in, and like that changed to the live ball era, and they had an off season to learn how to pitch with the new ball all the time. And so all of a sudden, pitchers have to learn overnight how to re-pitch. Advantage batter.
It was all set up to be advantage batter. Babe Ruth broke the home run record.
But I'm saying pitchers learned how to do it over generations.
Well, you still had guys like Walter Johnson who could throw in the 100-mile-an-hour range. I'm saying Babe Ruth changed baseball, saved baseball.
Baseball changed baseball. Babe Ruth took advantage of a rule change.
Oh, really? He broke the home run record not once, not twice, not three times, but 7 times.
Okay.
And a record that his final one in 1927, 60 home runs, that record held for 34, 35 years. Okay.
He hit 60 home runs in 1920, the first year of the live ball era.
1927.
No.
Don't doubt me on this.
So that's a big change, right? So the ball's now traveling farther, and the pitchers have to relearn how to pitch, which takes a very long time, which is why they banned the spitball in 1920. But the last spitball thrower was 1934 because they let the old pitchers still use it because they knew how to play with the spitball on there.
I'm going to add one. Let me just say this about it. I'm not trying to cut you off, but Babe Ruth also, because he was a pitcher for the most part, had a very unusual swing for that era.
He did.
He hit with an uppercut.
He did.
It's the same way guys hit today, but
Not
back
anymore.
then
It's been changed recently.
It's been changing, but Albert Pujols hit that way. Big uppercut swing, get under the ball and launch it. Right. He was the one guy who was doing that, and that's why the home run record was achieved so well.
Okay. Another thing that gave Babe Ruth an advantage on home runs is that until 1931, if the ball bounced in the outfield and then went over the fence, that was counted as a home run.
Yeah, we don't know how many.
I have no idea. It probably wasn't a lot. It probably was 20, 30.
Maybe. Who knows?
But that was a ground rule double after 1931. Sure. So he also has all of those that count for him, which nobody knows about.
Everybody knows about that. It's just it's the way the rule. He played with the rules that he had.
He did. And I'm not, that's what I'm saying. I'm not taking anything away from him.
Sounds like you are.
But people are judging Babe Ruth and what he did based off of the rules of today's game. Babe Ruth played in 3 different eras of baseball. If you include the home run change, which I do include as a different era of baseball. So he played 1934, I think was his last year he played.
No, I think it was 36 or 37.
Okay. So for the prime of his career, though, any ball that bounced in the outfield and went over the outfield fence, which were shorter at that point, counted as a home run.
I'll give you one more thing that Ruth had that other players didn't at the time. Yankee Stadium was built in the 1920s.
Yes.
It was built specifically for Babe Ruth.
Yes.
It had a shorter right field fence because
I don't hold that against him.
I don't either, but people have brought it up in the past.
To me, that's like holding it against Colorado players, which I hate that people do. You don't hold stuff like that against them. Okay. You don't. It's not their fault for where they play. It's not their fault for what happened.
Baseball should have mandated that the fences in Colorado were pushed back, but they were trying to get more offense in the game.
They were. So he interrupts me, and then I lose my train of. This is why he interrupts me, because I'm making great points, and he makes me lose my train of thought.
I supported your last point.
You did,
because it was.
But he also played in the dead ball. So in the transition from 1920, Babe Ruth was built to hit that ball really far, right? He built his swing to even hit the dead ball as far as he could because he was so strong. And so the pitchers are learning how to re-pitch. Babe Ruth all of a sudden has this huge advantage, and it takes the pitchers at least a year, if not longer. I think, honestly, it took 10 years for baseball to really catch up to hitters when it came to the live ball era. Because if you look at Murderer's Row, you look at the batting stats from 1920 to 1930, they were outrageous. It was almost like the steroid era stats compared to the generation before. And all of a sudden in the 1930s, it starts to taper off a little bit. You did have players like Walter Johnson and players like that.
Over Cleveland Alexander.
That figured it out. right? But it took 10 years for pitching to catch up to hitting.
You know why?
So I'm not saying he's not one of the greatest players of all time. Babe, look at me right now. Look at me. I'll put it here. Look at me right now. You are one of the greatest players of all time. Maybe the greatest player of all time. What I think is that it's unfair that people inflate what he did compared to today's game, and they're judging him based off the rules of today because they don't know baseball history.
Okay, hold on. Babe Ruth did it based on beer and hot dogs. That was his training regimen.
Yeah.
Which,
sure,
he saved the game because of Black Sox scandal, and I hate Judge Landis, just for the record. We agree on that.
Yes.
Because he was a flippin' racist and shouldn't be allowed.
Correct.
Same reason I don't like Bob Feller.
Understood.
But Babe Ruth came in, played against the best of the best. He was 6'2", 215. He was a mountain of the man for that time.
Yes.
And he did things no other player had ever done before.
Yes.
He saved the game almost single-handedly.
Yes.
Good.
I agree. Lou Gehrig was there too.
Not until later.
But what I am saying is if you look at the 1910s, right? You take the 1910s.
The Ty Cobb era.
The Ty Cobb era. Well, he was a little bit earlier, but he wasn't part of the 1910s.
He played in the 1910s.
He did. But if you look at that era and then you look at the 1920s, it's the same thing as if you look at the early 1980s to the late 80s and into the 90s with the steroid era. It's the same jump. It really is. And that's why I get upset with you over the steroid era comments as well, because, okay, well, then you have to look at the 20s as the same way.
No.
There was a huge rule change that gave these guys a huge advantage.
Hold on. Steroid era does not compare to the 1920s because the steroid era, players were knowingly using a substance that was illegal in the United States of America to grow their melons.
Listen, I may agree with you, but it was fun to put the buttons on that one.
No.
But I am saying, but you have to admit, though, from the 1910s to the 1920s, it's the same jump in batting stats that we saw during the steroid era.
It was much more a small ball game because it had to be
in the
because
1910s.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, the game changed, and Babe Ruth took huge advantage of that.
They still were playing baseball.
I agree. But it was a different game. The rules were the same, but changing that ball changed the game.
Not arguing.
And it took pitchers. Do you disagree with me that it took pitchers 10 years to catch up to the rule change?
I don't know if it was 10, but they figured out they had to become better pitchers again.
Listen, Murderer's Row was more because most pitchers were still getting used to the ball change. If you look at the players that came up during the 1920s, most of those guys learned to play the game as kids in the dead ball era, right?
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, the 1930s, now you have the next generation of baseball players that have been playing in the live ball era their entire lives. In the 1920s, you didn't have that. It took everybody time. And in the late 20s, early 30s, I think more so the 30s, if you look at the statistics, is when pitching started to catch up.
Okay. I'll even grant you that. I don't like hearing there was another big jump in the 1940s when segregation finally ended in baseball. But Babe Ruth played against the best of the best.
He did.
Of the Negro Leagues.
Well, and if you look at it, there wasn't that big of a jump in statistics. You just had more better players in the game.
Yeah. Well, and certain guys, the end of the roster, weren't good enough to make it into the game.
Correct.
But you got to have guys like, I mean, I would have loved to have seen the one guy that I really feel bad for has always been Josh Gibson.
Probably and Satchel Paige.
And Satchel Paige. He got a cup of coffee and got to play in the major leagues.
Yeah, but he was pretty done at that point.
Yeah, he was in his 40s, maybe 50s.
Yeah.
But Josh Gibson, arguably the greatest catcher of all time.
Yeah.
And you know how much I love Johnny Bench.
Yeah.
But Josh Gibson, they call the black Babe Ruth. I'll call Babe Ruth the white Josh Gibson.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've said that too. If Josh Gibson's in Major League Baseball, it's Ruth and Gibson.
Yeah, it's instead of being about Babe Ruth, it's about that competition between those two.
It's Sosa McGuire at that point.
At that point,
it
without
really
the steroids.
Without the steroids. But all I'm saying is, from that standpoint, Babe Ruth, he may be the greatest player of all time.
He is.
He may be.
He is.
Okay, well, say I grant you that. Even with that being said, he is overrated because people don't know the history of the game and people don't understand that he came up at a time where there was a huge rule change that completely inflated his stats.
He still had to hit 100-mile-an-hour fastballs.
Well, okay. That's
did.
not true. The only one we can guess that hit 100 miles per hour, Babe Ruth never had to face because he was on his team.
Who?
Walter Johnson.
Walter Johnson
was a Yankee.
No, I think he was the senator.
He was a Yankee.
Check it out. I love when I get him on these. This is where we need Sophia to be in the studio as a producer.
Coming soon. Walter Johnson.
I'm sorry, Dad. You're right.
Was a New York. He's Washington Senator. I was right.
Thank you.
Who was the Yankee? He was in the 50s. Johnson. There's Johnson for the Yankees.
Are you thinking Whitey Ford?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what I'm thinking about.
But
Either way, okay, that's one player. Nobody else is throwing
Cleveland
the ball
Alexander.
like that.
There are a lot of guys.
And you don't know that he threw 100 miles per hour. You have no idea. Again, you didn't see him play.
I did not, but you know how much I love baseball history books. I've read the books. They've talked about it. The man could throw.
Yeah, but they didn't even have guns back then to even understand what 100 miles per hour was.
They fought World War I with
guns. Understand what I meant. Don't do that.
Want to get upset about something else?
I'm just saying, before we do that, I want to make this point very, very clear. I am not saying Babe Ruth is not an all-time great player. I am saying people need to understand the history of baseball more to understand that Babe Ruth, the reason people were so amazed by him is because he was able to take advantage of a huge game-altering rule change, and that completely inflated all stats.
Yes, he did. I'm not going to argue with that because the game he started to play and the game that he transformed the game into was because of the change in the ball.
The bouncing over the fence counted as a home run.
But we don't even have any idea how many times that happened.
I have no idea. I really don't. I mean, that's
honestly the way Ruth hit.
Probably not many.
Probably less than 10. But we just don't know. We're never going to know.
What I would think it happened more in the dead ball era than it did in the live ball era.
I would think so.
But he hit 20 home runs in the dead ball era.
I just will not discount the talent and the ability of those players in the dead ball era. They still had to hit. They still had to run. They still had to throw people out. And I would argue later in the game, you better be a damn good pitcher to get that ball to do what it had to do.
All I'm saying is dead ball era stats don't count in today's game. You can't hold them to the same. And I would say the 1920 stats, it was the same jump we had during the steroid era. If you don't want to count the steroid era, then you don't count the 1920s.
Of course you do. Ty Cobb, I think his lifetime batting average was 376 or something like that.
Yep.
Still had to hit that damn ball in the holes.
But it was more about getting on base than hitting home runs.
He was a
different game. Different game.
Small ball.
Completely different game. You might as well call it something else completely.
No, I think what they should have done instead of calling it the dead ball era, it was the small ball era.
You can't because you can still play small ball today. It's a completely different game. And that's my point. That's why I say Babe Ruth is overrated. I hope that you understand me now.
I don't.
BIU 2330. I hope now I make sense because
be a first.
That's what I mean when I say he's overrated.
Not overrated. Go.
I just proved my point. So
I don't know if you did or not.
I did.
Anyways, there was another person that got people all hot and bothered this week for something that I just don't think was that big a deal. Kansas City Chief, by the way, his jersey sales have skyrocketed.
Yeah, one of the top in the league right now.
Harrison Butker.
Yeah.
Is a Catholic.
Yes.
Went to a Catholic university and was asked to give a commencement speech.
Not just Catholic university. He went to Benedictine College.
Yes.
Which is one of the most conservative Catholic universities in the world.
Right. And in his speech, he made the point that women have choices. Some of them would go and try to build a great career.
Yes.
He said the majority, though, are looking forward to family and their children, and they're going to get their satisfaction out of those kind of achievements.
Well, the exact quote is, some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you, speaking to women in the crowd specifically, that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she started living her vocation as a wife and as a mother.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What's controversial about that?
I don't know, because I'll tell you something. My life truly started when I started living my vocation as a father and as a husband.
Yeah. I mean, my greatest achievement in his life has nothing to do with work. It has everything to do with you and Ryan and Cassie.
Right.
And it just, that's, and all he was saying is that women had choices. And he didn't say take one choice over another one.
No. He said some of you go on to lead successful careers.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong with being, he used the term homemaker. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. My wife stays at home. She does. My wife stays at home with the kids. She's a stay-at-home mom. She homeschools our kids. It's great. And you know what is the fruits of those labor? Is I have two amazing kids that don't have anxiety issues, that feel safe at home and out in public. They just are great kids and don't seem to have a lot of the issues I see other kids having today. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you want to know a difference in society today? Everybody talks about, well, why weren't all these issues from before? You want to know what the majority of ladies did?
I'll give you a classic.
They were at home taking care of the kids, and the whole kids weren't at the house by themselves. Now, some women have to work today. That's a different issue I could get into completely. But he didn't say anything wrong.
No, he didn't. And
he definitely didn't say women belong in the kitchen.
Never did.
Definitely not anything that was said in his speech.
But here's my bigger point on this. No matter what he said, even if he would have said, which he didn't, say women belong in the kitchen. He did not say that. But even if he would have, he has the freedom to say those things without being criticized the way he has been and taking them out of context.
And as a Catholic, he has a right to especially say that at a Catholic university.
Yeah. We have freedom of speech in this country. Those are his beliefs.
Right.
If you don't agree with them, go out and say something else on your own space. He had a forum. He was asked to make this commencement speech. He did a fabulous job. And kudos to Whoopi Goldberg, which those words haven't come out of my mouth in a long time. But she even said, I don't have to agree with him, but he has the right to say them.
Yeah, this is America. Everybody has the right to do what they want, as long as you're not hurting any other people. And what he said he didn't say anything bad at all. In fact, he said some of you are going to go on to lead successful careers, but some of you are very excited. And I'm sorry, but you should be excited about being a wife and a mother in the same way men should be excited about being a husband and a father. Like honestly, there's nothing better. My life changed when I got married and had kids. It just did. I'm sure you can say the same thing. You know, you're no longer thinking about self anymore. You're thinking about others. You can't think about self. It's a sacrifice. So your life becomes a living sacrifice for your children, your significant other. So there's nothing wrong with what he said about that. And again, if you can stay at home, I guarantee if you go out there and the option was given for anybody to stay home and take care of their kids, most people are going to choose that to stay at home and take care of their kids.
And by the way, this is for all you men out there who are going, well, my wife doesn't work. She stays home. Get your head out of your behind. Those women work harder than you would ever imagine doing.
110%. Being a stay-at-home mom I don't envy my wife. I really don't. I mean, she is the most amazing woman in the world. And the only reason, and I'll reflect what Harrison Butker said, the reason I am able to be the person I am and succeed in the ways that I have is because my wife allows it to happen by taking on a lot of the burdens at home. It's a team effort. And that's the thing that he could have said in here. It's a team effort, right? You work together in unison. You are a team together, and it's respect all the way around.
Yeah, and not one person is more important than the other one. I will give your wife this, though.
Yeah.
She's aware that batteries go into thermostats.
Oh, my God.
She pointed that out. Okay. By
the way, it does seem that a majority of people support him, considering his jersey sale is higher than Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes.
You know who I was most impressed with?
Who?
Gracie Hunt, daughter of the owner, came out strongly in support of him, strongly in support of the fact that how lucky she was because her mom was able to stay home. Yeah. The NFL, shame on you for saying what you did, saying that his comments don't reflect the NFL. That's a coward's comment to make. Come out in support of your players and remind people that he has a right to say that. Don't hide behind, well, his views don't represent the NFL.
Well, not only they say that, they said, we completely support inclusion. It's like, okay,
So
well,
did
then
he.
include your player.
Yeah. And by the way, he said inclusion as well.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Ugh.
He definitely did.
This is going to be an angry show.
I think so, because we have to move on to something else that you and I have been arguing about all week.
Mm-hmm.
Another villain of the week,
Not a villain.
Scotty Scheffler.
So you want to go through the story?
Scotty Scheffler on Friday. I don't know what date it was, because I don't know what date it is today.
21st.
Okay, I'm not doing math right now. On Friday of the PGA championship, ends up in a situation. So what happened is a bus hit a pedestrian. A pedestrian was crossing the street. The bus hit that pedestrian, and the pedestrian was killed. He died. And it's important for you, I think, to understand this point.
I understand.
The pedestrian died.
He did.
And so there's a crime scene there. Scotty Scheffler's there. This happened at like 5-something in the morning. Scotty Scheffler gets there, I think, around 6. And it happened right at the entrance that the players go into.
Which
at Valhalla.
Other players had already done exactly what Scotty Scheffler had done.
Right. They were there earlier. Anyway, you gotta realize there's a difference between getting there before the accident and after the accident. I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
When they did it. Go on.
But he's coming up. So this is from the report. The police officer told him to stop and not move. Scotty Scheffler kept moving, dragged the police officer.
Allegedly
Dragged the police officer. Scotty Scheffler seemingly realized what happened and stopped. Took a second, rolled down his window. The cop reaches in, grabs him, puts him up against the car, arrests him. He gets out about an hour later, is there in time, and shoots a 66. I got to give the guy credit. That's a lot of focus.
So let's add a little context to this. Yes, there was an accident.
And there's still more information coming out.
There is. Some more came out today. So Scotty Scheffler, as all PGA players to get, is a player's car.
Yes.
Free car for the use for the week. It's got a big logo on the side of the car, and it's got a giant letter P in the front window.
Standing for player.
Other players had gotten in there. Scotty Scheffler needs to get in there. He goes to the left, and the cop stops him. The cop that stopped him, by the way, I have ultimate respect for police officers. Do not take this as I'm bashing the police. However, he was not part of the traffic control for the PGA event there.
No, he was investigating a death.
Correct.
Yep. Somebody died.
Investigate the death.
Yep.
And
protecting the crime scene is what he was in charge of. This was a crime scene.
I'm putting on the blame on the PGA and the police department, who is there to provide traffic control, for not having one of their regular guys there saying, yes, players can go in this way. So a guy who wasn't involved and wasn't aware stepped in, according to, let me get this name right, Bob Wishman, Jets play-by-play announcer, who was there in the van, saw what happened, as well as, what's the other guy's name? Jeff Darlington was there as well. They saw it as the guy tried to stop him. Scheffler rolled down the window. From their vantage point, the cop was running along and tripped and fell.
I'm sure there was situations like that where I think dragged is a little harsh from what we're getting now. But he had his hand on the car. He was trying to, what I think happened, and this is all alleged. I have no idea. There was no body camera. The body camera was not on.
Remember, if it bleeds, it leads.
And right. But that was, dragged was in the police report.
It was.
The word dragged was in the police report. I think he put his hand up against the car and Scheffler kept driving.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Police officer stops me. What we do know is facts from both sides is a police officer stopped him, told him he couldn't go in. Right?
Police officer didn't say, why are you going there? Would have been a simple question to ask.
Right. Police officer tried to stop him. Scotty Scheffler kept driving. Police officer fell down. Whether he was dragged by the car, whether he just tripped, doesn't matter. Police officer falls down, gets hurt. Scotty Scheffler then stops, and I'm assuming because he realized what happened, rolled down the window. Scotty Scheffler gets arrested. People are freaking out because the body camera wasn't on. Well, he probably didn't want to film a dead body. Because, again,
body camera should always be on.
Somebody died. And that's what the Louisville police is saying. And I'm not denying that. Okay? But what I am saying is if I'm in that situation and I see this giant crime scene there, there's a big crime scene, something clearly happened, and I see the entrance blocked, I am going to roll down the window. I am going to say, hey, I'm Scotty Scheffler. I'm a player here.
He didn't get
and
that opportunity.
Okay, give yourself that opportunity. That's the first thing I do is I roll down the window, talk to the police officer, say, hey, I'm a player here. How do I get in? And if he says, well, you can't right now, hey, is there somebody else here that I can talk to because I have to play today? How do I get in? That didn't happen. And I don't understand human common sense. I get it 6 in the morning. I get you're focused on golf. But
you're focused on what you were told to do by the PGA
and
by
there's
traffic
obviously
control.
There's a huge. He was in the traffic jam. He got out into the other lane to get out of the traffic jam that he saw. He sees what's happening there.
He sees
the
an
entrance is blocked.
He didn't know anybody was killed.
He did not know anybody was killed. He had no idea.
He didn't even know there was an accident, I don't think.
But from the police officer's perspective, yes, he did. It was taped off. It was all taped off. There are police lights everywhere. You can see something happen.
Yes, something happened,
see
but
that
who knows
the entrance
what?
is blocked there. And so you say, hey, what do you need me to do here? I got to get in here. Simple thing. That didn't happen.
Again, I'm putting somebody from the PGA should have been out there to direct traffic and work.
I do. I think there was miscommunication. Scotty Scheffler came out and said there's miscommunication on both sides. I think that's what actually happened. There was miscommunication on both sides.
He's going to do community service for people of Louisville, I think, because I don't want him to get off. I do not want him to just be able to walk away. It's okay.
He did something wrong. Even if there's a misunderstanding, there's wrong. Because there's 3 stories, folks. There is one side, then there's the other, and then there's the truth.
And without the body cam, that's literally what we have.
Correct. And they're saying, well, he should have had it on. You're probably right. He should have. But he's also dealing with an investigation where somebody just died. He probably didn't think he had to. I don't know how that works. I really don't. I'm not a police officer. I don't play one on TV. I don't pretend to know what the heck they're doing with that. Yes, a body cam would have helped in this situation a lot, but it wasn't on. We don't have it.
I'm not going to give Scotty a pass, but I'm also not going to crucify him and say he should go to jail. I think that was
He did go to jail.
He did, and it was an overreaction. He never should have happened. I mean,
probably
what?
An overreaction.
Yes. I mean, he had.
But a police officer just got ran over.
Allegedly. Police officer tripped and fell, according to the people from ESPN.
Okay.
Either way, he had a big P in the front window. Somebody needed to take 2 seconds and go, even if he would have walked up to the window and go, where the hell are you going?
Well, and that's where I think the Louisville police mishandled that specific. It's such a random situation. Who thinks about this? Like, okay, what happens if somebody gets hit by a bus and dies right in front of the player entrance? What do we do then? Nobody talks about
on a rainy Friday morning.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they will now.
Situation. But where was the person that does direct traffic for the players? Why weren't they involved? Because there's rumor that there was somebody there that was waving him forward. Right. It sounds like that. And that's a different story. If somebody's in the left corner of my eye waving him forward, but a police officer's back here, I'm looking at that guy not paying attention, and then I get pulled forward.
And other players did get through.
Other players did get through.
Same thing. They cut inside the traffic and went in. It's
a rough
bad either
situation.
Way. He's going to do community service. Yes. I think he should. Because no matter what, if a police officer tells you to stop, you stop.
Yeah.
Make this a learning experience for all involved. Do something nice for the Louisville Police Department. Help them raise funds. Move on with our day. And at the next Masters tournament where he's hosting the dinner, his mugshot will be largely displayed, saying, "Welcome our defending champion."
Well, I'd have to give him credit though for him to have all that happen in the morning and come out and shoot a 66.
He was stretching in the cell.
Got to do what you got to do. He was going back out and playing. He was focused on golf completely. It really is an unfortunate situation. I don't think he is the villain that he's being made out to be, but I do think that he also had some responsibility in this, and this whole thing could have been avoided if both parties had just handled that situation better.
Don't you think that's the case in 99.99% of all cases?
If not 100.
I mean, just take a breath.
Yes. But they didn't. It was a stressful situation. And what happened. Because it sounds like, too, this happened all in like a minute.
Yeah.
This is a 1 minute situation where things just went from 0 to 1,000. And that's a hard situation to deal with. I just
road rage comes in.
The big thing we need to remember here, and my thoughts and prayers goes out to that family, is that somebody did pass away in this. And I think the sad part is with all this going on with Scotty Scheffler is that we're not paying attention to the fact that someone got hit by a bus and died. They're not going home that day.
And on the flip side of that, we're not paying attention to the fact that Xander Schauffele led wire to wire in that tournament, played magnificent golf, and won.
That's not the important part here. A bus driver also has to deal with the fact for the rest of his life that he killed somebody.
Not minimizing the death of the pedestrian.
That's what we should be focusing on, and not the fact that somebody drove a little bit forward and a police officer tripped and got hurt.
It took the limelight away from things that were more important.
It did. NIL is...
Are we going to talk about anything happy today?
No.
Okay.
No, this is just a miserable episode.
Go on.
We are going to talk
it's
about
not miserable.
only negative
It's an amazing issue.
Well, it's an episode issue. We can be a comic book. That would be cool to have a comic book, actually. I'm a big comic book fan.
No.
The NIL is
It's a cluster.
a cluster, not a comic,
It's FUBAR,
not an episode,
to use an Army term.
but a cluster. FUBAR.
Tell me, what happened with...
All right. Let me get the story. That was probably our worst transition we've ever had.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to go from there. So the first one I want to talk about is Jaden Rashada. Florida NIL lawsuit. That's right. There is now a lawsuit where a college player is suing a head coach and a bunch of boosters because he didn't get paid because a contract was canceled. This is why the NIL sucks.
Can I ask
and
one
why
question?
It needs to go away.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Was there a contract
That
signed?
is part of the problem. Because if you're going to sign a national letter of intent, you better be signing a contract that says you get that money. So let me read this to you.
Okay.
Jaden Rashada sued the University of Florida. Oh, he sued the university too. And Coach Billy Napier on Tuesday. Rashada is claiming he was defrauded of millions of dollars in name, image, and likeness. So how did we get here? Rashada was ranked number 31 overall in the 2023 class and had a prep career, blah, 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 blah. Rashada committed to the Miami Hurricanes in June 2022. This is the important part. The lawsuit states that Rashada had a $9.5 million NIL promise. By the way, this guy's a freshman, and he's being promised $10 million. But Rashada decommitted that November and promptly flipped the Florida Gators and Coach Napier. He signed his national letter of intent because Florida had promised him $13.85 million in name, image, and likeness. The Gator Collective, an independent fundraising organization that is the one responsible for distributing money to athletes at the University of Florida, was responsible for the deal. However, the financial backing did not materialize, and they terminated the contract. Rashada was released of his letter of intent.
Normally, when a contract is rescinded, another piece of paper has to be signed.
But this is the problem, though.
Yes.
Is because these kids don't understand that. They have nobody around them that understands that.
They have no advocates.
They have nobody on their side. They hear, we'll pay you $13.5 million. And they're like, yep, I'm there. They don't understand that you don't have paper that states this. So all of a sudden, they didn't get the financial backing for it. And so they're saying, sorry, kid, we'll release you. You can go play someplace else.
We never promised that. You misunderstood.
Right. We thought we could get it for you, but we can't. So all of a sudden, the Hurricanes spent that money elsewhere. So that money's gone. So he goes to Arizona State, probably made, say he made $1 million or $2 million. Either way, he had $9.5 million on the table that he left to go to Florida as a promise for more, and they didn't have the money. They're promising money they didn't have. And to sit there and tell kids, well, there's no contract, kid. We thought we could get it for you. We can't, but you can go play somewhere else then instead.
Yeah, this is as bad as boosters have always been. And by the way, that whatever you call that organization, it means they're
the Gator Collective.
Fine. It's their booster organization that paid players behind everybody's back in the day.
Correct.
Now is doing it up front.
Right.
And they are ripping off the players in a different way now.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like when it was behind closed doors, nobody actually got ripped off.
The kid did. He was expecting 13.
In this one, because now it's up front. But to promise a kid $13.85 million and then say, sucks to be you. Sorry you lost out on $9.5 million from Miami. This is why the NIL sucks. This is why it's terrible. And this lawsuit's going to go through. And guess what? This kid's going to win.
He's going to win,
This
but
kid's 100% going to win.
the problem is nothing was signed.
I
So
understand
you're now
that.
believing them. You may have something from Miami that says, yeah, we promised him that.
But this is a different business case. Because here's the thing that's going to happen. If this ends up going to court, you're going to have Gators getting called to the stand, and they're going to have to admit that they promised him $13.85 million.
Who's going to testify to that?
You have to.
Who knows besides him and the
Billy
Booster
Napier,
Club?
the head
Maybe.
coach.
If he knows,
And he's going to get subpoenaed.
oh, absolutely. If he knows,
He can plead the fifth, and he might,
he might.
but then you just look guilty to a jury.
I mean, the kid has every right to sue. The problem is, again, without something signed in writing, it's a he said, he said.
And that's what this is going to change the NIL. This is what needed to happen with the NIL.
I knew it was going to happen.
It had to happen because now all of a sudden there are going to have to be paper trails for this.
Wild Wild West just got its first sheriff.
Well, and here's the thing. You have a lot of kids that don't necessarily come from a lot. They don't understand finances. I didn't understand finances as a kid. I barely understand them now. And I'm a professional in the world doing well for myself. You need people around you. These kids don't have them. They just hear money. They don't understand contracts. They don't understand they're not going to maybe get that money. They have no idea. Some of these kids haven't had $5 in a bank account. Like it's
And that's not to say these kids aren't smart, because they are.
they are smart. But
Money turns their head.
it's like it's like anything else. If you don't know about a subject and somebody talks to you about it, you don't understand it. It would be like if somebody talked to me about rocket science, right? It's like if I'm talking about Brian May from Queen, who's actually a rocket scientist, and he starts to tell me all about rockets and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'd love to go fly on a rocket. It doesn't mean I understand that I'm going to be propelled at thousands of miles per hour and possibly diving up in outer space without a spacesuit, right?
And the other problem is,
That was a bad example, but it's all I had.
it's fine. The other problem is these kids don't even have the resources to go and get an attorney. They want to know who to get.
Right.
The agents are looking to rip themselves off. If I'm this kid going, yeah, agent comes to me and says, I'll protect you. Yeah, and you're going to take 10% or 15%. No.
All they hear is $13.85 million. It's generational money at that point.
Yes.
And the parents and the kid get really excited about it. They're like, yep, I am 100% in on this. And then they get screwed and get confused as to why.
And now he's sitting there going, all I know is I'm out millions of dollars,
Right.
because you promised me, I decommissioned.
Right.
It's gonna
I
end
had a promise that was guaranteed of $9.5 million from Miami. And now he sat out a year because of this. Or no, he ended up going to Arizona State in the last second.
That's beside the point. You're absolutely right. This had to happen because now the NIL and the courts can rule on NIL and get some rules around this.
Right. This may end up going to a Supreme Court to actually make rules on this.
If I'm the NCAA and I know NCAA asking the NCAA to do anything is ridiculous, but they should have had rules around this. That's why I keep saying football needs to break off
If
their own
I'm the
thing.
Gators, right? I'm the University of Florida Boosters. I just paid the kid $10 million to go away.
And he's going to go, yeah, you owe me 13.8.
I understand that. But you get him a $10 million, write him the check, get him to sign something that says he's not going to talk about this anymore. You're screwing over the kid more. But if I'm Florida, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm not saying it's right, but that's what I'm sure that's what they're trying to do at this point.
And if I'm that kid, I mean, he has a chance to change football forever.
And he needs to take that chance.
He does, but will he do it? We know nothing about the kid. I support him. I hope he gets the money that's owed him, because what happened should never happen.
It's a joke.
It's the boosters, again, playing God.
Right.
And screwing over 18-year-old kids.
And speaking of another guy that may have been screwed, and this has to, again, do with NIL, is Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. signed a contract, allegedly, right? It sounds like he did. Signed a contract with Fanatics for his name, image, and likeness when he was in college.
Okay.
All the deals were redacted. So let me get into this here for this specific one. So in the suit, Fanatics is suing Arizona Cardinals rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. In the suit, Fanatics said that Harrison has refused to fulfill his obligations to deal to the deal of the contract, while also publicly asserted that the contract does not exist. The details of the contract with Fanatics were redacted from the lawsuit. And it says, so, however, a source told ESPN earlier this month that the deal was for at least $1 million and that the contract was for autographs, signed trading cards, game-worn apparel, and other marketing opportunities. The suit also states that he is selling on the official Harrison Collection, LLC, and they're calling him as a defendant because he is selling his stuff elsewhere other than Fanatics.
I have very little sympathy for Marvin Harrison Jr. because he does have people in his life that know this business and we're watching out for him. And where was Marvin Harrison Sr. when this Fanatics contract was signed? And this time it was signed.
In the suit, Fanatics claims that after recognizing Harrison's potentially bright future and the limitations of the promotion and license agreement, it approached Harrison again about a long-term, more substantive deal. The two sides began talking about a new deal in April 2023, and the negotiations were heavily negotiated. Harrison, who does not have an agent, was represented by his father, Hall of Famer wide receiver Marvin Harrison Sr. The two sides agreed to a binding term sheet on May 16, 2023, and it was finalized 2 days later. But here's the issue with college kids getting signed, right? You don't know what your value is going to be once you get to the NFL. Did Marvin Harrison Jr. ever think, that's silly, he knew he was going to be a top 10 pick.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
He knew he was going to be a top 10 pick.
He knew he was going to probably be the first wide receiver.
This is the problem
pick.
with college. But at the same time, you don't know what that market's going to be like for you. He could have fallen in the draft. Nobody knows what would have happened. It's the problem with getting college kids to sign.
Then Marvin,
they're taking advantage of him for lesser value than what he's worth now.
He's got a father who's a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Who's been in this business. There is such a thing in a contract that you could easily put in there. Should I be a top 5 pick?
Hold on. Here's the other part of this that's interesting. And this is where it's going to get really interesting. The suit states, I want to give you all the information. Okay. We are not these websites that report different information.
Go on.
We are going to give it all. The state suits that on April 23rd, 2024, Marvin Harrison Sr. asked Fanatics for a copy of the binding term sheet for his son. After the elder Harrison received it, the suit said he told the company that the Harrisons do not have a deal with Fanatics.
Was it signed?
I don't know.
I mean, if it was signed.
Sounds like it.
If it was already signed, they had a deal.
So they want him to obviously finish with the contract. That's what Fanatics is saying. I also have trouble taking Fanatics' side because of the joke that they did with baseball. Okay? I am against Fanatics because of the jerseys they decided to put on baseball players.
Rob Manfred approved those stupid jerseys. I'm putting the blame on him.
All right, that's fair.
So
that's fair.
This one's going to
This is, again, a college kid signing a contract and then all of a sudden having issues later on.
This is apples and oranges. Marvin Harrison Sr. is an experienced player. Number one.
Listen, you're right, but I'm using this anyway.
I know, but in this case, Harrison should have brought in his attorneys. He's got them to help him negotiate this contract. Just saying, oh, that's not official. If your signature's on there, guess what, Mr. Senior? It's official.
I can't really argue on this one.
I'm
trying, but you're not letting me use it towards the nastiness of the NIL, and that's frustrating.
Well, because I'm right, as always. But
if he did sign on the dotted line for a contract, he is legally binding to that contract. The issue with the NIL is Jaden Rashada signed on the dotted line, but because it didn't have dollar amounts in there, Florida can just say, we changed our mind. And that's not acceptable. Because, okay, we're seeing this with Jaden Rashada coming forward and suing, but how many other kids has this happened to?
Who just, the boosters
look at him what to do.
The boosters look at him and go, look, what are you going to do?
Right.
We've got the money and you don't fight us. You're never going to play.
Well, and I'm sure this is different because this is $13.85 million. But some of these kids are signed maybe to $1 million, maybe to $500,000, right? And the boosters are probably, I guarantee, have looked at them and said, kid, you're going to pay more in legal fees than you are for this money.
Right. And I'm sorry, boosters are the slimiest animals. They love their universities, and they'll do anything, hurt anybody to help their universities. And that's just wrong.
It is. Well, and that's where you need to, if you really want to run an NIL, I would like to see them do what the NFL has done. You can sign these contracts for players, this is the amount that you can pay players for. In the NFL, the first pick gets this, the second pick gets this, the third pick gets this, and then they can go and get deals on their own elsewhere with different companies. So be it.
Is that the Matt Stafford rule?
It is Sam Bradford.
Sam Bradford, thank you.
Sam Bradford was the last one to get it. Cam Newton was the first overall pick that was in the new structure. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. But this is I lost my train of thought again. I'm really bad at this. But I really think, though, if you have scholarship athletes, they say this is the amount that you can pay an athlete to come to your school.
Well, and
you call it a day.
It's just got to get some rules around the NIL, because right now it's ridiculous and people are getting hurt and these players are getting money they really shouldn't be getting. I like the idea of that. I think it's Boise State said, if you're a freshman, you're not getting NIL from us.
Yeah.
Period. Prove something.
We've said that. I agree with that. Or if anything, you have a stipulation on what freshmen can make, and then what sophomores and juniors and seniors. At the same time, it's like, listen, these colleges are making billions of dollars. I understand that argument too. I don't know what the solution is, but I know what just happened to Jada Rashada is not acceptable, and this needs to be fixed from that standpoint. Just to say, you know what, we promised you this money, but we don't have this money, that is not acceptable by any stretch of the imagination.
What's also not acceptable is how the NFL screwed with people's schedules this year. Did you see the Bears schedule?
Yeah, pretty easy, huh? They want Caleb Williams to be a star.
Oh, my God.
You have to remember, bad teams get easier schedules. It's always been that way.
I get that. And the
Jets, is a team that had the number one, well, the Panthers had the number one overall pick, but they were still a top 10 pick on their own.
And the Jets, they're getting revenge.
Got screwed.
They're getting revenge.
The NFL came out and said the Jets owe us one. I think they have like the fourth hardest schedule, all primetime games. Yeah, they said the Jets owe us one. In quote, the Jets owe us one.
I think, don't they play Kansas City, Baltimore, and Cincinnati to start their season, something like that?
It's a gauntlet, man.
I mean,
it's Aaron Rodgers, so.
Well, they can do it. Then there's the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Who we like to call America's real team. At least I do.
You do. I agree, but I don't say it.
I'm proud. I say it. First opening up in Brazil against the Eagles.
Yes.
Neither team's going to be wearing green, even though both teams.
That hasn't been official. Well, you know the rules on that. Why, right?
One of their opponents wore green and they got mad.
Do you know how vicious South American soccer matches are? Have you ever heard? I think it's Matt Damon. Have you ever heard this story? His wife, I think it's Matt Damon. I don't know if I'm right, but some famous actor. I'm going to say Matt Damon anyway. His wife is from Argentina. Okay. So they were down there visiting her family, and he goes, "Hey, I'd like to go to a soccer game." And his father-in-law was like, "We're not going to a soccer game." And finally, he convinces him we're going to go, and he says, "Okay, no women and children." He's like, "That's weird." They go there. There are fans behind one goal, fans behind another goal, nobody in the middle. He asks him why. He says, because you don't want to be close enough where you can get hit by a bottle being thrown at you. There are riots there. There are everything. So it is nasty when it comes to soccer in Brazil. And their arch enemy wears green. And so they're like, nobody can wear green here.
Yet their favorite team down there is the Packers.
I don't know where you're getting that information from.
It was reported in Brazil, the Packers are the favorite team so far.
Got it. Yeah, so it sounds like
Packers are the favorite team in wherever they go.
It's true. That is true.
If you're in Bali Bali or Bora Bora, it's the Packers.
Sure.
Anyways.
Cheese is universal.
I don't even like cheese that much.
Anyway, moving on. So the Eagles are going to wear black. The Packers are going to wear their whites.
With white helmet, allegedly.
Is that what they're going to wear in Brazil?
I don't know. We haven't seen the announcement on their new uniforms.
That was supposed to be
at the
3
draft.
Weeks ago.
Yeah. So then they play Indianapolis.
Who knows what they're going to be?
And Green Bay.
Yep. They have 9 home games.
9 home games. They're on TV 5 times, second only to Kansas City, I think.
Yep. Not that bad in the beginning. The Eagles, we don't know what the Eagles are going to be this year.
Tennessee, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
They go to the Rams.
Minnesota's not going to be great. Los Angeles Rams, we don't know what they're going to be. The Cardinals are going to suck again this year.
Houston's going to be an interesting
Houston's
game.
going to be good. Jacksonville's going to be a lot better. But that's going to be a home game. Technically,
in
that's 10
Jacksonville.
home games because Jacksonville's a home game for the Packers. I've been to those.
Yes.
It is a Packers home game.
You and I have been there. I don't know if it will be as much anymore, but
Yes, it will.
it's still there.
Yes, it will. Especially if the Jaguars aren't as good.
Yeah, then it's all Green Bay.
Then it's Green Bay.
And
I think they're going to
unfortunately,
be better.
Jacksonville always shows up for the Packers.
They do.
They just do. So that'll be interesting. Then they've got Detroit at home. Then they go to Chicago for the big game against the Bears.
Easy win.
We'll see. 49ers at home.
Yeah, then we go 49ers, Miami on Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving night.
Yep.
They're
And
the
then-
home team.
And then we play Detroit the next Thursday, back-to-back Thursday games. It's really weird to play Detroit on Thursday and it not be Thanksgiving.
Yes, it is. And oh, by the way, that's only going to be on Prime Video. So we live in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, if you live in Green Bay or Milwaukee, you get to see the Packers on regular TV.
Yeah.
Any place else in the state. And Green Bay Packers are Wisconsin's team.
Yeah.
But if you live in Madison, get ready to pony up to watch that. If you're in La Crosse, wherever.
Right.
So people are not happy about that. We live in the Milwaukee area, so we're
the other
watching.
game is Peacock against Philadelphia.
Again, we're in the Milwaukee area. We don't care.
That's right. They can come visit us.
They've got New Orleans. So where do you think they end up the year? These are preseason. They end up the year New Orleans, Minnesota, and home against Chicago.
Right. What's your? You keep saying this is like a really difficult schedule.
I think it is. I think it
where
is.
you find it difficult.
Houston.
You have the Eagles. We don't know what they're
Lions.
going to be.
Eagles are going to be better.
You have
First
the
game of the
Colts.
year.
We don't know what they're going to be. You have the Titans. They're going to be bad. You have the Vikings.
think
They're
the-
going to be bad. You have the Rams. I don't know what they're going to be.
Indianapolis is going to be better this year.
We don't know that. This is Anthony Richardson's second game.
I think they're going to be better.
I agree. I like Anthony Richardson. I still do.
Houston's going to be great. Detroit's going to be awesome. Both games I think are going to be huge.
Okay. But here's what we got. We got the Eagles, who finished the last 9 weeks winning one game. You have Indianapolis, who's really starting a rookie again, because Anthony Richardson played 4 games.
Yeah.
You have Tennessee, who's not going to be any good. You have Minnesota.
We
That's
don't
going
know.
to be the interesting one because they have Aaron Jones. That's going to be an Aaron Jones game. But you have Sam Bradford, J.J. McCarthy. You don't know. I'm assuming they're not going to be great. You have the Rams.
Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold. I said Bradford, didn't I?
Yeah.
They did have Sam Bradford at one point. We have Sam Darnold, who I think's better, but they're going to be an okay team. You have the Los Angeles Rams.
I think they're going to be good.
The Vikings?
No, the Rams.
The Rams, okay. They could be good. You have Arizona. Kyler Murray's still their quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to be bad. You have Houston, who's a great team, but we're playing them at home. You have at Jacksonville, who I think is going to be better. Detroit's going to be good. Chicago is going to suck this year.
I don't think they're going to suck.
It's the Bears.
Yeah, I understand that. They've got the weapons. It's all going to depend on Caleb Williams.
Right.
And how he shows up.
Right. Against a better defensive scheme this year.
Yes.
And he does a scheme he doesn't understand. And that's just it. They're going to be
We
bad.
talked about him.
San Francisco's a good team. Miami's a good team, but we're playing both of those teams at home. So that was a nice gift. And Miami in Green Bay on November 28th. Appreciate it. You have Detroit. You have at Seattle. I don't know what they're going to be. They didn't grab a quarterback.
Not
You
worried.
have New Orleans. I'm not worried about them and Derek Carr. And then Minnesota and Chicago. I mean, I see, okay,
What do you see?
let's see. 1,
17 games.
2, I'm counting wins.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'll give you that one. 5, 6, 7. We're going to split with Detroit. 8. We'll win either San Francisco or Miami, so that's 9. 10, 11, 12, 13. I see 13 wins on the schedule.
I see 11.
Where do you get 11? Who are we going to lose to? We're going to split with the Vikings and the Bears?
We're gonna lose San Francisco. I think we're gonna lose at the opener in Philadelphia.
Okay, I gave us a win at that. I think we're going to beat Indianapolis at home. I
I
think
do
we're going to
too.
beat Tennessee. We're going to beat Miami at home.
They're gonna lose to Jacksonville.
I took the
just
Rams as a
think-
loss.
Yeah. They're gonna lose.
I
to-
took Jacksonville as a loss. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we start 4-0. You think we start 3-1.
Okay.
Let's say we lose to Los Angeles in Los Angeles. I'm at 4-1. You're at 3-2. You keep track of your own. Arizona, I'm at 5 and
You're 5-1.
5-1.
4-2.
Houston, it's at home.
It's a.
Let's say that's a loss.
It's going to be a tough. No, I'm going to take that as a win only because coming to Lambeau for the first time when you're a second-year
agree.
player, that's going to be tough. They're going to
That's
win
6-1.
and I'm at 5-2.
Jacksonville, I think we're going to win. That's 7-1.
I'm taking that as a loss. We're at 5-3.
We seem to lose to Detroit at home all the time, so that's 7-2.
Okay, that's 5-4 for me.
Right? 7-2, yeah, 7-2. Then we have the bye week. We're going to beat the Bears. It's 8-2.
That's 6-4 for me.
Where are you getting 4 losses?
We're going to lose to Detroit. We're going to lose to Jacksonville. We're going to lose to Philadelphia, and we're going to lose to the Rams.
No, we're going to split Miami and San Francisco. We're going to lose one of them.
I think
we're going to win one of them.
I think we could lose both.
I think we could win both.
They're going to lose to San Francisco because until they prove that they can beat San Francisco,
right, I'm with you.
they're going to lose.
But we're playing Miami in November in Lambeau.
They'll beat Miami.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to split it. And so what am I at? That puts us at 12 weeks. I have us at 3 losses at that point. And
Seattle will win.
They'll win Seattle. They'll win New Orleans. They'll win Minnesota. And they'll win against the Bears. I think we end with 4 straight wins. We're either going to beat Detroit at Detroit or we're going to beat Detroit in Lambeau. We're going to split that.
LaFleur has not lost in December since he's been here.
Right.
So I think he goes undefeated again. I think he will go to Detroit and win. He'll go to Seattle.
We seem to win in Detroit and lose in Lambeau. So I agree.
It's weird.
So I think we're going to win 6 in a row to end the season.
I can see that happening. Look, I think even if they go 11-6,
that's great. Playoffs.
That's great. It's probably either a game of either they win the division, tie for the division, they'll be right there with Detroit.
Right.
So,
I mean, Jacksonville's going to be better. Houston's going to be better. But like you said, it's a first game in Lambeau. But it's also C.J. Stroud, who played in the big house.
He did. Is he going to take a step back this year?
And the only reason he lost in the big house was because Michigan cheated.
Thank you, Ohio State homer.
Did Belichick cheat? Michigan cheated.
C.J. Stroud, it's going to be an interesting year because now everybody, the same with Jordan Love, and it's the same argument I've made. Everybody's seen him now.
Yeah.
Now what's going to happen when you've got
I'm going to drop my microphone first.
What's going to happen when the guys are actually game planning for you?
Right.
You've got to come up with some new stuff.
Yeah.
I think Love has the ability to do that.
I think so too.
I don't think the Packers should necessarily sign him to a 5-year deal.
They're going to sign him to a massive contract.
I don't know that I do that.
So we'll talk about that in a second here. I don't know what the Eagles are going to be. I don't know what the Colts are going to be. The Titans are going to be bad. The Vikings are going to be bad. The Rams, I don't know what they're going to be. The Cardinals are going to be bad. Houston's going to be good, but it's in Lambeau. Detroit's going to be good. Chicago's going to be bad. San Francisco probably is going to be good. Miami's going to be good, but it's in Lambeau in November. Seattle's going to be bad. New Orleans is going to be okay. And then Minnesota and Chicago. I mean, this really isn't as much of a gauntlet as people are making it out to be.
No, it's not. And the Pack, look, I will say this. If Love is as good as advertised,
he is.
And he proves it.
Yeah.
The Packers could have 14 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, they could, if he really steps up and says, no, this is mine, and he walks with that swagger he did in Philadelphia the first time he came in.
Yeah.
They could do it. They've got the weapons.
They do.
Josh Jacobs, the kid out of USC, they've got the running backs.
Right.
They've got the best wide receiver core in the league. It's all going to be dependent on if Love is truly the guy.
And our defense.
I think their defense is going to be outstanding this year because
a lot better.
Hafley's going to be blitzing happy.
Let's put it this way. Can't be worse.
I never challenge worse, but I agree with you. I think they're going to – the athletes they've got, and Devontae Wyatt is going to be the key. This is his defense.
It is.
He needs to step up and be the guy he was in Georgia.
Yeah.
And if he can do that, Packers defense is
safety position solidified, and we drafted 3 of them. One of them's going to work out.
And I still hope they get Micah Hyde.
They could get Micah Hyde come training camp time. He's still out there.
Mm-hmm.
This defense is going to be better. Jair's going to be happier at this point because he's going to get a lot more man-to-man. I mean, I think everything's going to be better on defense this year, but we don't know until we know, right?
Because Hafley is still an unknown.
But if that defense is what it's supposed to be, and Jordan Love being what he is, the Packers could easily run through this schedule. It's the playoffs that makes me nervous, not the regular season.
San Francisco that makes me nervous. wherever we play them in the
If
playoffs.
we play San Francisco in the playoffs, history tells us we're going to lose. Like, that's just what's going to happen. Unless Brett Favre is our quarterback, we're going to lose to San Francisco in the playoffs.
Look, it was Jordan Love's first time. I'm cutting him slack. We've seen that throw that he made at the end of the game too many times with Favre.
Right.
It happens.
Listen, Favre couldn't beat the Cowboys, destroyed the Niners. Rodgers destroyed the Cowboys, couldn't beat the Niners. And it looks like Love can destroy the Cowboys, can't beat the Niners.
Well, I think it's LaFleur that can't beat the Niners. LaFleur's got to get out of his
couldn't
head.
beat the Niners either. But you're right. It is more of a LaFleur thing at this point.
It is. It's so personal with him, with his friendship.
We can beat Dallas, even if we have to cheat to do it and we call it Des Bryant catch, not a catch. I mean, we still beat them.
It was a catch. No, it wasn't a catch. It was a clean play. I mean, it was great play.
By the rules at that time, it was not a
In any
catch.
case.
That was a catch.
It was, yeah.
So, again, the playoffs are a different ballgame. But this schedule, the Packers are going to come out of here, unless something terrible happens, the Packers are going to come out of this minimum 11 wins. Most likely, they're going to be 13, 14 wins.
We'll see.
I just don't see anything on here unless Jacksonville becomes a superstar team, unless Miami learns how to play in the cold, unless New Orleans and Seattle all of a sudden turn things around.
It's all about Jordan Love. This is the year I want to see
So
him.
what you're saying is all you need is love.
Maybe, but maybe you have to.
Can I sing it? I'm going to sing it. All you need is love. Ba-ba-da-ba.
Thank you.
All you need is love.
Anyways,
Come on.
I don't think
hold
they
on,
should
hold
sign.
on.
No, I'm not doing the
Do
trumpet.
it. Do
no,
it.
No.
Ba-ba-da-ba. You
Hey.
failed me.
Hold off on the contract for a while.
You are not holding off on the contract for Jordan Love. You can't.
Why?
Jordan Love is not playing for $12 million guaranteed.
He's going to play.
Jordan Love is not playing. If you would have just signed his stupid fifth-year option and
didn't
had him
know-
for $25 million,
Nobody knew
then
Love
you
was
play.
Love didn't had no idea he was going to do what he did last year. He surprised
You
everybody.
drafted him to do that.
But
You drafted him to
they
do that.
didn't know.
If you just would have kept him on his fifth-year option, paid him the $25 million, this wouldn't be a conversation. But Jordan Love is not playing for $12 million
No.
guaranteed.
They'll
He's not playing for $12 million
they'll bump him.
guaranteed.
Bump him up to 30 for 1 year.
Then you should have just signed him to his fifth-year option.
Oh.
He's not playing a one-year contract. Jordan Love proved last year he can play in this league. Jordan Love proved last year he's
Maybe.
a starter in this league. You sign him now
No.
for a $50 million a year, $51
And
million
then
a year.
What happens if he ends up turning into Trevor Lawrence the last couple of years?
Okay, Trevor Lawrence, your argument is Daniel Jones. What happens if he turns into Daniel Jones?
Either way,
Which we still don't know what he's going to be. I
Trevor
think
Lawrence
he's
has
gonna be
not
better
been
this year.
lightening up.
He had a
Daniel-
sophomore slump.
Daniel
Last year was his second year. This is his
Daniel
first year doesn't count.
Jones is a better one, but I mean, what if he ends up being
Okay.
that? You've wasted all your money.
Daniel Jones still looks like a deal right now with all the other contracts that are being signed.
Oh, that's the one thing.
You sign him now for $51 million, $52 million a year, give him that Jared Goff contract with less guaranteed money, because 4 years from now, that's going to be a deal.
Yeah, because 4 years from now, contracts are going to be in the 60
So
or
don't play this
70,000.
stupid game. Sign him. This is what drives me nuts about Gutekunst, is he waits to the last minute to sign his players, and then they leave. Like
Well,
Devontae Adams.
There'll never be a third contract.
For a quarterback, they will.
Quarterback with nobody else,
Right.
which is what Devontae
Unless
Adams
it's
is.
a oft-injured offensive lineman.
You'll
that's
never
a
see that
different
again.
story.
Anyways,
If it's a left tackle who's already been hurt, we'll sign you to a third contract. Just fine. You need to sign him now. You have to.
no.
You have to. You
No.
don't.
You don't
This
have
is
to
the
do
cheapest you're
anything.
gonna. If you sign him next year and you wait, and all of a sudden
If
he
he-
lights it up like he's going
if
to,
he lights
he
it
is
up this year-
$65 million a year.
No, he'd still be in that 50.
No, he wouldn't.
Yes, he would.
You need to sign him to a
No, you
long-term
don't.
deal now. Patrick
Let
Mahomes
him-
signed the richest contract in NFL history, and a year later,
We
it
don't
was
know.
nothing.
We don't know Jordan Love is Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes is now about to be the 10th highest paid quarterback in the league.
Okay.
Sign him now
No.
to whatever if you can get him for $52 million a year now on a
He
5 to
has-
6 year deal, sign him.
Oh, let's see if the kid can play in year 2.
He can play.
We don't know that.
We do know that.
Don't know
Proved
that.
last year he can play. And we've proved last year he can face adversity and come out on
But
top.
can he Now when everybody is game planning him and they know his game, can he still play?
Yes.
We'll see. We don't know that yet.
Next Hall of Fame quarterback for the Green Bay Packers.
I hope so.
Jordan Love.
I hope so.
But you have to sign him now.
No.
You have. He's not playing this year then.
He will play.
If he plays on a $12 million guaranteed contract, he's dumb. There is something to be said to be there for your guys. There is something to be said to ride out the contract you signed. But there is also something to be said to realize the NFL stands not for long, and he could get hurt next year, and that's it.
Yeah, you could get hurt after you sign him to 150.
He needs to get paid now. Yes, I never feel bad for players that get their money.
Okay,
ever.
Boy. I don't either, but I also want to pay players when they've proven what they can do. He's only done it for 9. He did it for 9 games.
Okay, then you should have not redone his contract to pay him $12 million last year. You should have signed his 5th-year option and then let him play on $25 million contract.
He didn't know what he was last year either.
Okay, well, that means the Packers gambled and lost.
They gambled last year.
Jordan Love gambled and won. So now you pay him. You said, we're not signing your 5th-year option. We don't know what you are. We're going to sign you to this ridiculously incentive-laden contract for $12 million guaranteed. And Jordan Love said, cool, watch this. And he showed up. And so the Packers gambled.
Except for 4 games in October.
The Packers gambled. Okay, even better. He had 4 bad games, and then look what he did after. That's even more impressive.
Yeah, now see
what the Packers gambled and lost. And so now you have to sign him to an extension. He's going to get the Jared Goff deal with less guaranteed money.
He is not Jared Goff. I'll take Jared Goff all day long. He's been the best quarterback in the league for the last 3 years.
You take that back. Right now.
You know I don't want Jordan Goff Love, but Goff has proven he's worthy of that contract.
Goff is 100% worthy of that contract.
Love hasn't done that yet.
You just said you'd rather have Goff than Jordan Love.
He's been the best quarterback the last 3 seasons. I wouldn't do it because he's a Lion. I want my guy. I want Jordan Love to be the superstar.
Who do you want?
Jordan Love.
Right now.
Jordan Love. I do.
Jared Goff or Jordan Love?
Jordan Love, obviously. But I want him to be
16 or 10.
Stop it. 10.
You just said Jared Goff is worth that contract and Jordan Love is not.
Exactly, because Jared Goff has done it for years.
That means you'd rather have Jared Goff.
No. It
does mean you'd rather have Jared Goff.
No, Jordan Goff.
Now you're saying that Jordan Love is not worth what Jared Goff is worth.
He's not. He hasn't done it for long enough.
You'd rather have Jared Goff.
He hasn't done it long enough.
Jared Goff.
I want my guy to be Jordan
Love. You're a Lions
Love
fan.
and to prove it.
That's great. You go hang out with the Lions. You're a Lions fan. Got it.
Not.
You think Jared Goff is better than Jordan Love?
No, he's done it long enough and has earned the contract. Jordan Love has had 1 season. I'm saying, Packer fans, slow your roll and be realistic.
That's fine. He had 1 season. But you have to pay him now. Because you decided not to sign the 5th-year option.
There's got to be some middle ground here.
There's not. You decided not to pay his 5th-year option, and so you lost. And now you have to pay him.
The only reason I'd be comfortable signing him is I think he's a character guy.
He's a character guy, and he's a Hall of Fame player.
It's not going to go to his head. He's still going to work his butt off.
100%.
So he may earn it, but it's going to be...
So Jared Goff is worth the contract he signed?
Absolutely.
Right? You don't think Jordan Love is worth that contract?
Not yet.
All right, go be a Lions fan. I'm done with you.
Oh, stop.
I'm done with you. This is ridiculous.
It is not
ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
How long is Goff?
Jared Goff is worth the contract, but Jordan Love's not. I don't believe in my guy who just took us to the playoffs.
And lost. How long has Goff been in the league? He's got a history of success.
2018.
He's got a history of success.
But he also has had a bad year in there.
Yes.
Listen, Jared Goff is worth it. I said that last show.
Yeah.
Jordan Love's also worth it, and you're saying he's not. So you don't believe in Jordan Love.
I'm just
You're a Lions fan.
I want to see another year out of Love.
You don't think Jordan Love is worth it. Got it. What if he has a bad year? Do you still think he's not worth being the Packers starter?
For less money. I want to see Love go out and do it rather than just giving a 1 year. That'd be like signing C.J. Stroud after his first year to a $50 million contract.
He didn't sit. You have longer with him. You don't have that now. You sign him now, $50 million Packers. You go be a stinking Lions fan.
I'm a Packers
fan. You cheer
fan.
for the Lions when the Packers come to town. You're clearly a Lions fan now.
I am not a Lions
You go
fan.
cheer for Jared Goff and the Lions.
I'm a Packer fan with a brain, unlike somebody on the other side of the table from me.
I understand what we have, and I understand the situation we're in, and I don't want a disgruntled quarterback who's not going to play for $12 million because he's not stupid. So that means you have to sign him to a long-term contract.
When do you think he signs the contract? Because I know he's going to sign the
training
contract.
camp. It'll be a 4-year deal. It'll be almost a mirror image of Goff, just less guaranteed money.
I think so, too.
It'll be $90 million guaranteed instead, and the rest will just play out the contract.
I think he's going to get over $100 million guaranteed.
He might. Or add $100 million guaranteed. Yeah. It literally will be Jared Goff's contract without $170 million guaranteed. It's going to be a mirror image, and it's going to be 4 years.
Hope, honestly, that Russ Ball and Gutekunst don't try to play games with this. Be smart about it.
It's Gutekunst and Russ Ball.
I know. I know.
They played games, and that's why they're in this situation.
Right. They're too smart by half.
But he'll be signed before training camp is done.
And I want him in a gold jacket at the end of his career.
Yeah, whatever. You're a Lions fan now.
I'm not a Lions fan.
You're a Lions fan now. We have had a great show, but as always, you cannot have a conversation with your father without your dad getting the last word, so it is all you.
I picked the hill I'm willing to die on. It happened again this week. Aiden Gallagher out in Oregon is another boy who couldn't cut it playing against his own gender, so he decides to go up and beat up on girls, taking away a title from a girl who's worked her life to achieve that win, and he just stole it. The only good news out of this was the loser got booed as he crossed the finish line. What the hell is going on with the people that are running these leagues, and where did they lose all of their common sense? This has gotten to the point of ridiculousness. There is a difference between boys and girls. Girls have every right to compete, and they have every right to the opportunities they earn. Don't take them away by letting guys who are bigger, stronger, and faster than they are take away their glory and their wins. This is ridiculous. It's got to end. Riley Gaines is right, which I want to get her on the show. Please come on. We'd love to talk to you. But this guy should have his title stripped. And all of these feminists who are going, well, it's perfectly all right. I don't ever want you to talk about patriarchy again. Because if you're saying it's okay for a boy to go and beat a girl, even though the girl is done all the work that they've done to get that win, shame on you. Shame on everyone who allows a boy to compete against a girl. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop.
I think this has been the angriest show we have ever had.
Maybe. I think so.
Started with you being wrong about Babe Ruth and ended with you being wrong about Jordan Love. Thank you, as always, so much for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.